Check this out, guys. This is absolutely the best food Ed has ever had on a survival trip. Not only does he trap a massive caiman, he gets to feast on some perfectly grilled caiman meat. On top of that, he finds sweet, juicy wild cashews, some spicy, mouth-watering little fish, and a side of earthworm sashimi to boost his vitality. After stuffing his face, he washes it all down with a sweet tropical drink. What is supposed to be a hardcore survival show, he somehow turns into an all-inclusive wilderness vacation. This time, Ed heads to the Orinoco River region in Colombia. This vast savanna is home to a ton of wildlife, but the droughts and wildfires have got the animals acting a little crazy. Ed takes a local wooden canoe to his starting point, then hops into the production crew's jeep to keep moving. On the way, he can't wait to rip his shirt off. Watching the taillights fade into the distance, that familiar feeling of isolation instantly kicks in. Per usual, he shows us his survival gear. Aside from a few cameras for filming, this time he also brought a drone for those third-person shots. As for hair, he won't be bringing that in this lifetime. He takes a quick look at his surroundings. To his left, the plains stretch out endlessly. To his right, there's a bald, rocky mountain, so he decides to climb up to get a better view. With a plan in mind, he throws on his pack and heads out. Thanks to the clouds blocking the sun, the weather isn't nearly as hot as when he arrived. But walking through this tall grass, he still has to be incredibly careful, because you never know if you're about to step on a snake or a stick. Right on cue, Ed spots something moving in the grass ahead. Zooming in, it turns out to be a diamondback rattlesnake. This scares him so much his non-existent hair almost stands on end. If that thing gives him a kiss, he'd be sent straight to an early grave. He smartly backs away and takes a detour. By the time he reaches the Rocky Mountain, it's almost sunset. With no time to rest, he sends up the drone to map out the terrain. In the distance, he spots a forest. He figures that place has to be loaded with resources. But it's getting late. He won't make it there today, so he has to set up camp right here on the peak. He notices a cactus fruit not too far away. After all that walking, he is starving and parched. He grabs a rock and smashes it open, revealing the bright white flesh inside. It has a nice, crisp texture. It tastes like a cucumber-flavored potato chip. The inside not only quenches his thirst, but the carb content is way higher than beef. When night falls, he just lies on a rock and goes to sleep. The next morning, Ed heads down the mountain toward the oasis. Right at the base, he finds a wild, sour sugarcane. Since he hasn't had breakfast yet, he immediately shoves the flower into his mouth and starts chewing. He says it tastes a lot like a banana. As for the stem, it is incredibly sour, but it is packed with water. After that, he lights up a wild wilderness cigar. Taking a drag, he notes that it's highly refreshing. That being said, he needs to pick up the pace, because a few days ago, a fire broke out here. The blaze swept across the entire savanna. It's been burning for 3 days straight without stopping, and it is spreading his way at an alarming speed. Ed is less than 200 yards away. The heat wave hits him right in the face. The temperature is absolutely scorching. To avoid getting swallowed by the flames, he runs for his life while keeping an eye on the fire's path. After a 2.5-hour trek, he successfully reaches the oasis. Here, he finds the water he's been dreaming of. Without a second thought, he chugs it down to fill his stomach. The hydration level is dozens of times higher than beef. He gets so excited he lets out a weird little giggle. He wishes everyone watching good luck and great fortune. May everything go your way, and may your bank balance match the numbers you leave in the comments. But considering he's still too close to the fire, just to be safe, he decides to float down the river, to find a safer spot to set up camp. Thankfully, he has a waterproof backpack, which saves him a ton of energy. He floats downstream for about 10 minutes. While drifting, he notices some fruit trees on the bank. He gets to shore and finds the ground covered in wild palm fruits. They look pretty similar to kiwis. The taste is a little astringent. It seems like they aren't quite ripe yet. But luckily, the vitamin C content is dozens of times higher than beef. He packs a few away for later. He floats another couple of miles downstream. Ed arrives at a river intersection. He spots a bunch of tiny fish in a pool of water. He figures he'll make a fish trap and catch a few for a snack. He gathers some vines and thin branches from the woods. First, he sticks the branches into the ground in a circle, ties the top firmly together, then weaves the vines around it, ring by ring. When he gets tired halfway through, he even uses it to scratch his back. Weaving a fish trap is a long process. Ed spends 6 hours on it and still isn't finished. Seeing that it's getting late, he has to stop working for now and switch his focus to getting ready for the night. Knowing there are pumas and jaguars around, and not wanting to become their midnight snack, he gathers up some branches. He builds a fence on the ground, creating a barrier with the thorns behind him. Sleeping in the middle should keep him alive. Soon enough, it's day 3. The first thing Ed does when he wakes up is finish the rest of the fish trap. Too lazy to find actual bait, he just uses the palm fruits he picked up earlier. He thought they tasted pretty good anyway, so he figures the fish will probably love them too. Sure enough, not long after he drops it in, the fish swim right over. Now he just has to wait and see if he catches anything. 50 minutes later, Ed comes back to check the trap, full of hope, but when he opens it up, there isn't a single fish hair inside. Refusing to give up, he tosses in even more palm fruits. Then he sticks a few pieces of grass around the entrance, hoping to create an obstacle for any fish trying to swim back out. He puts it back underwater and waits another hour. He pulls it up again, still completely empty. He caught absolutely nothing. At this point, Ed is starting to question his life choices. He thinks he might be better off dropping his own waste in there as bait. Seeing how scarce the resources are here, staying any longer means he will definitely starve. After thinking it over, Ed decides to move his camp somewhere else. According to the map he checked earlier, he just needs to cross this plain in the middle, and he will reach a much larger oasis. There should be way more resources over there, but the daytime sun is just too brutal, so he plans to wait until it cools down in the evening to make his move. As the last ray of sunlight fades from the sky, Ed grabs his gear and heads out again. However, operating on a severe calorie deficit, going on a long hike is clearly not a smart move, especially not out on the danger-filled open plains. If a big cat suddenly jumped out at him right now, he would be absolute toast. By the time darkness completely takes over, Ed has to rely on the faint light of his camera to keep moving. After a 5-hour trek, he can vaguely make out the edge of the forest, but blindly stumbling in there at night is way too dangerous. So he decides to just tough it out on the grass for the night. That being said, sleeping out here means he has to keep one eye open all night. By the next morning, Ed wakes up and is drawn to a loud noise. He follows the sound and finds a winding little creek, complete with its own mini Victoria Falls. Even better, there are plenty of little fish swimming around inside. Without saying another word, he immediately places his fish trap in the water. Then he walks out to an open clearing, and like a giant, Ed delivers a ruthless kick to a termite mound. Since the fish didn't like the fruit, he figures he'll try termites. He breaks off a chunk and tosses it into the trap. Honestly, I don't know why he's trying so hard. With this many fish, he could just grab them with his bare hands. While waiting, Ed decides to take a walk around the area. It doesn't take long for him to find an unknown fruit. Word is, the locals say you absolutely cannot eat this. Otherwise, it will cause permanent hair loss. But Ed is completely unbothered, because he clearly has nothing to lose in that department. He notes that the inside is fleshy, and if he eats it, he might actually permanently lose all his hair. Looking at it, he figures it would make a pretty decent bowl. Afterward, he heads back to the creek to check the trap. I have to admit, changing the bait worked like a charm. He pulls it up, and there's actually a good amount of tiny fish inside. He counts them up, a grand total of 4. Having gone days without meat, Ed grabs one and shoves it straight into his mouth, enjoying some incredibly fresh sashimi. Even though they aren't very big, the protein content is on a whole different level compared to beef. With this solid start, Ed's morale gets a massive boost, so he decides to strike while the iron is hot and get a fire going. To save time, he pulls out a rubber band from his waist. He quickly fashions a piece of wood into a slingshot. Wait, no, a bow drill, and uses a rock to carve a groove into a wooden base. He has started a fire like this thousands of times. Sure enough, within a few minutes, he's got a glowing ember. He transfers it to his tinder and blows gently, and the fire master successfully brings the flames to life. The climate here is hot and bone dry. Worried the fire might spread and burn the whole place down, Ed grabs a few massive palm leaves. He smears mud from the riverbed all over them, building himself a fire-safe platform. Once that's done, he goes over to check the fish trap again. As expected, it is full of fish once more. Now Ed has a total of 6 little fish. He skewers all of them onto a wooden stick and props them up next to the fire to roast. Once the skin is slightly charred and golden, he takes a bite. He says the aroma is incredible, and the taste is perfectly savory, and the protein content is, once again, dozens of times higher than beef. Ed downs them one by one, completely unable to stop. Before we know it, it's day 5. After waking up, Ed uses a rock to smash open the fruit he found yesterday. That white flesh inside is exactly what causes hair loss. Even though he doesn't exactly have much to worry about, he decides it's better to play it safe and not eat it. He explains that eating or drinking this part causes baldness. He even jokes that he can hear the viewers pointing out that it makes no difference for him. So he uses wood ash to burn away the white interior, takes it to the river to wash it out, and now he has a perfectly usable bowl. If you ask me what else he needs now, he's basically fully furnished at this point. While continuing to explore the area, he notices a ton of fallen cashews on the ground. He looks up and sees plenty of fresh ones still in the tree. Ed plucks one and pops it in his mouth to try. One bite, and it bursts with juice. The juice flows like an open faucet. He says it tastes like a mix between a watermelon and a cucumber. He is absolutely living his best life right now. He packs up a dozen or so, brings them back to camp, and tosses them in the fire to roast. This helps break down the toxins in the cashew shells. While waiting, he steps to the side and sees a bunch of earthworm droppings on the ground, so he snaps a branch, squats down, and starts digging, quickly pulling out a massive earthworm. For the record, a pound of these on the market weighs exactly 16 ounces. You have to admit, Ed is a true culinary expert. He tosses it straight into his mouth. He notes that the texture is crunchy, yet slightly slimy, and the more he chews, the more disgusting it gets. But luckily, the protein content is dozens of times higher than beef. Heading back to camp, the cashews from earlier are perfectly roasted. He cracks one open with a rock. The nut inside not only provides a ton of calories, but it actually tastes really good. For the past 4 nights, Ed has been sleeping on the ground. So today, he wants to build himself a proper shelter. After all this hard work, he thinks he deserves a little luxury. He picks a spot right next to the creek, making it easy to get food and water. His plan is to build a triangular bed between these 3 neighboring trees. At first, he tries to take the easy route and snap the branches with his bare hands. But he didn't realize the wood around here is incredibly tough. He grunts and struggles for half the day just to break a single branch. At this rate, he won't be done until the end of time. After thinking it over, he decides to craft a stone axe. He uses a sharp rock to split the wooden handle, wedges the stone inside, and ties it all together securely with vines. And just like that, his premium stone axe is complete. With a handy tool, the work goes 100 times faster. In less than half an hour, he chops down an arm-thick tree. With enough materials collected, Ed sets up the triangular frame by the river. Then he knocks down a palm tree and uses the inner wood to form the bed frame. He lays out massive leaves to act as a mattress. He manages to finish building the bed just before dark. He lies down to test it out, and it is absurdly comfortable. Unexpectedly, in the middle of the night, he gets woken up by a loud rustling noise. Out here in the middle of nowhere, that is definitely not his Uber Eats delivery. It scares him absolutely half to death. After surviving a terrifying night, he wakes up and starts his day with his daily serving of nuts. He's so happy he plays a little air accordion. Then he uses his squeaky clean hands to squeeze a glass of fresh juice. It's nutritious, and really gets his appetite going, officially kicking off a day full of energy. To figure out what exactly was creeping around last night, he heads in the direction of the noise, and mounts a trail camera on a tree. Ever since he swapped his bait, his fish trap hasn't failed him once. Unfortunately, the fish are too small to meet his daily calorie needs. If he really wants to live comfortably, he needs a much bigger source of protein. But this forest is huge, and it would take way too long to explore. So he has no choice but to deploy his ultimate tech weapon, the drone, to help him scout the unknown areas. They aren't kidding when they say technology changes lives. He definitely didn't have this luxury in the past. After flying for a bit, he spots a swamp about a mile downstream. That area is prime real estate for caimans, piranhas, and other wild stuff. There should be plenty of large animals and fish, more than enough for him to cook up a massive feast. Fast forward to day 7. Ed checks the camera he set up yesterday. He wants to see what kind of predators are threatening him. Right away, a puma appears on screen. A little while later, an ocelot walks by. Ed guesses the fire forced these animals out of their territory. Looks like he'll need to be on high alert from here on out. Moving past that little interlude, Ed wants to check out the swamp he found yesterday and get his hands on some real protein. The second he reaches the bank, he spots a snake-necked turtle sunbathing. It has camouflage that looks just like dead leaves. If you aren't paying attention, you'd never see it. Unfortunately, this guy is a protected species. If he grabs it, he will absolutely spend the rest of his life eating prison food. Barely 2 steps later, he spots a stingray. This thing comes with a built-in weapon and is equally dangerous to mess with. Continuing along the bank, his perfect vision quickly locks onto something good. Under a log on the opposite bank, there is a caiman poking half its head out. These things are basically overpopulated in this swamp. Not only that, he also finds a clear set of tracks right next to him. Judging by the size, it shouldn't be too big. So he decides to order himself some caiman takeout. His master plan is to use a small sapling for spring tension. He places some sticks at the waterway exit to guide the animal. He sets up a snare in the gap and scatters some fish as bait. As long as the caiman gives in to temptation and crawls inside, it will be hanging right there waiting for him. To make sure it's flawless, he personally tests the trigger sensitivity. Looking completely ridiculous, he can't help but crack himself up. Back at camp, the philosopher starts dropping some deep wisdom for the camera, telling us things like how you need to open your mouth to eat and move your legs to walk, that your dad is a man and your mom is a woman, basically just spouting a bunch of absolute nonsense. Soon enough, it's day 8. Ed is extremely confident in his trap. As soon as he wakes up, he rushes over to check it. Sure enough, before he even gets close, he sees the trap has been sprung. Zooming in, there is a caiman strung up completely upside down. Ed carefully approaches from behind, waits for the right moment, and pins it down by the neck. Then he takes a sharpened stick to the back of its neck. Just relax, buddy. Feeling a little dizzy is totally normal. When it's all over, Ed's hands are actually shaking. In all his years of survival, this is his first time catching a caiman. He is beyond hyped. He carries his prize back to camp and uses his stone axe to butcher the caiman. Different cuts of meat require different cooking times and methods. The tail has the most fat and the best texture. It's the part Ed is looking forward to the most. Once the flames die down, he throws it onto the coals to roast. Then he tosses the forelegs in as well. An hour later, the smell of barbecue fills the entire camp. The caiman meat is firm, rich, but not greasy. He says it tastes like a mix between fish and chicken. Stuffing his face full of fresh meat is the ultimate payoff. Ed straight up declares this place heaven. Not to mention, the protein content is now supposedly thousands of times higher than beef. Afterward, he mashes up some wild figs he found, sprinkles some crushed cashews on top, heats it up slightly over the fire, and makes a wild fig pudding that sends him straight to cloud 9. From this moment on, he officially declares he is on a vacation. In the blink of an eye, it's day 10. Today is the day he goes home. Before heading out, he goes to the river to scrub all the dirt off. Then he packs up his gear, grabs his handmade fish trap, and heads to the extraction point. And with that, his Colombia trip comes to a successful end.